The Ravager revealed. The team moved cautiously through the rocky terrain, their senses heightened after the encounter with the mysterious predator. The air was thick with tension, and every shadow seemed to hold a new threat. Commander Jackson Holt led the way, his sharp green eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. Behind him, Zanara struggled to keep up, her mind still reeling from Jackson's bold act of compassion. "What do you think that creature was?" Vira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've never seen anything like it." "It's a Krylosian Ravager," Zanara replied, her crimson eyes narrowing. "One of the most feared predators in the galaxy. They're said to be untamable, even by the most advanced species." "Untamable, huh?" Jackson said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "We'll see about that." A dangerous path. The team pressed on, their path taking them deeper into the heart of the planet's treacherous landscape. The ground beneath their feet was uneven, and the air grew hotter with every step. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the canyon, sending a flock of winged creatures scattering into the sky. "That doesn't sound good," Vira muttered, her hand tightening around her medical kit. "Stay close," Jackson ordered, his grip on his plasma rifle firm. "We're not alone out here." The Ravager's lair. The team rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with the Ravager once again. This time, the beast was not alone. A pack of smaller predators surrounded it, their eyes glowing with hunger. The Ravager let out a deafening roar, its massive frame towering over the smaller creatures. "This is bad," Zanara said, her voice filled with dread. "If we get caught in the middle of this, we're done for." "Not if we can help it," Jackson replied, his mind racing. "We need to find a way to get past them without provoking an attack." An act of compassion. As the team watched, the Ravager lunged at one of the smaller predators, its claws slashing through the air. The smaller creature yelped in pain, its body crumpling to the ground. The other predators hesitated, their growls growing louder. Jackson saw an opportunity. He stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Hey," he called out, his voice steady. "We're not here to hurt you." The Ravager turned its glowing eyes toward Jackson, its massive frame tense with suspicion. For a moment, it seemed as though the beast would attack. But then, something unexpected happened. The Ravager let out a low growl and stepped aside, allowing the team to pass. A new ally. Zanara stared in disbelief as the team moved past the Ravager, their weapons still trained on the smaller predators. "I don't believe it," she whispered. "You actually tamed it." "I didn't tame it," Jackson replied, his eyes never leaving the Ravager. "I just showed it that we're not a threat." As the team continued their journey, the Ravager followed at a distance, its massive frame blending into the shadows. Zanara couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the human's ability to connect with such a fearsome creature. For the first time, she began to wonder if the galaxy had underestimated humanity's potential. The hidden facility. The team finally reached their destination, a massive, dome-shaped structure hidden deep within the canyon. The facility was unlike anything they had ever seen, its walls made of a strange, metallic material that seemed to pulse with energy. "This is it," Jackson said, his voice filled with determination. "The source of the energy signal." "What do you think we'll find inside?" Vira asked, her silver hair glistening in the dim light. "Only one way to find out," Jackson replied, his hand hovering over the door's control panel. As the team prepared to enter the facility, the Ravager let out a low growl, its glowing eyes fixed on the structure. Jackson glanced back at the beast, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Don't worry," he said. "We're in this together." The harsh landing. The twin suns of Krylos 9 burned relentlessly, casting an eerie orange glow over the jagged landscape. Commander Jackson Holt adjusted his visor, the reflective surface shielding his sharp green eyes from the blinding light. His tall, broad-shouldered frame was clad in a sleek black combat suit, the insignia of the Galactic Coalition gleaming on his chest. Behind him, the rest of his team disembarked from the dropship, their boots crunching on the brittle, volcanic soil. "This place is a nightmare," muttered Lieutenant Vira, the team's medic. Her silver hair was tied back in a tight bun, and her pale blue skin shimmered under the sun's glare. "Why would anyone come here voluntarily?" "Because we have a job to do," Jackson replied, his voice calm but firm. "Intel suggests there's an energy signal coming from this sector. We need to find out what it is and who's behind it." The alien liaison. Zanara, the Aryan liaison, stepped forward, her crimson eyes scanning the horizon. Her slender frame was draped in a flowing, iridescent robe that seemed to shift colors with the light. "This planet is uninhabited," she said, her melodic voice tinged with skepticism. "Are we certain the signal isn't just a natural phenomenon?" "We're not certain of anything," Jackson said, adjusting the strap of his plasma rifle. "That's why we're here. Let's move out." The first encounter. The team trekked through the rocky terrain, their movements cautious and deliberate. The air was thick with the scent of sulfur, and the ground beneath their feet was hot to the touch. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the canyon, sending a chill down their spines. "What was that?" Vira whispered, her hand instinctively reaching for her medical kit. "Stay alert," Jackson ordered, his grip tightening on his rifle. "This planet is home to some of the deadliest predators in the galaxy." As if on cue, a massive creature emerged from the shadows, its scales glistening like molten metal. Its eyes glowed with a fierce intelligence, and its razor-sharp claws dug into the ground as it prepared to strike. The human's decision. The team froze, their weapons trained on the beast. But Jackson did something unexpected. He lowered his rifle and raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "Commander, what are you doing?" Zanara hissed, her voice filled with panic. "Trust me," Jackson said, his eyes locked on the creature. "This isn't just a mindless predator. It's scared." The beast hesitated, its growl softening as it studied the human before it. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, with a final snarl, the creature turned and disappeared into the shadows. A new perspective. Zanara stared at Jackson, her crimson eyes wide with disbelief. "You could have been killed," she said, her voice trembling. "Maybe," Jackson replied, a faint smile playing on his lips. "But sometimes, the best way to face a threat is to understand it." As the team continued their mission, Zanara couldn't shake the image of Jackson standing unarmed before the galaxy's deadliest predator. For the first time, she began to wonder if humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or technology, but something far more profound. The facility's entrance. The team stood before the massive, dome-shaped facility, its metallic walls shimmering under the twin suns of Krylos, 9. The air was thick with tension as Commander Jackson Holt reached for the control panel, his fingers hovering over the glowing interface. The Ravager lingered behind them, its massive frame tense and alert, as if sensing the danger that lay ahead. "This place gives me the creeps," Vira muttered, her silver hair glistening with sweat. "It's like it's alive." "Stay focused," Jackson said, his voice calm but firm. "We don't know what's inside, but we need to find out." With a soft hiss, the facility's door slid open, revealing a dark, cavernous interior. The team stepped inside, their weapons at the ready. The Ravager hesitated for a moment before following, its glowing eyes scanning the shadows. The first clues. The interior of the facility was a maze of corridors and chambers, each one filled with strange, alien technology. The walls pulsed with a faint, blue light, and the air was thick with the scent of ozone. Zanara ran her slender fingers over a control panel, her crimson eyes narrowing as she studied the symbols. "This technology is ancient," she said, her melodic voice filled with awe. "It predates even the Aryan civilization." "What could it be doing here?" Vira asked, her pale blue skin glowing in the dim light. "That's what we're here to find out," Jackson replied, his sharp green eyes scanning the room. Let's keep moving. A dangerous discovery. As the team ventured deeper into the facility, they came across a large, circular chamber. In the center of the room was a massive, cylindrical tank filled with a glowing, green liquid. Inside the tank floated the remains of a creature, its twisted form a grotesque blend of flesh and machinery. "What is that?" Vira whispered, her voice trembling. "It looks like some kind of experiment," Zanara said, her crimson eyes wide with horror. "A fusion of organic and synthetic materials." Jackson stepped closer to the tank, his jaw tightening as he studied the creature. "This is what the Vadian separatists have been working on," he said. "A bioweapon." The Ravager's reaction. The Ravager let out a low growl, its massive frame trembling with rage. It lunged at the tank, its claws slashing through the glass. The green liquid spilled onto the floor, and the creature inside let out a gurgling scream before collapsing into a lifeless heap. "What's wrong with it?" Vira asked, her hand instinctively reaching for her medical kit. "It's not just a predator," Zanara said, her voice filled with realization. "It's a victim. This facility was using it as a test subject." Jackson knelt beside the Ravager, his hand resting on its massive head. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" he said softly. "But you're not alone anymore." A growing bond. As the team continued their exploration, the Ravager stayed close to Jackson, its glowing eyes filled with a mixture of trust and gratitude. Zanara watched the interaction with a sense of awe, her crimson eyes softening. "I never thought I'd see the day," she said, her melodic voice tinged with wonder. "A human and a Krylosian Ravager, working together." "It's not about species," Jackson replied, his voice filled with conviction. "It's about understanding. We all have our struggles, but we're stronger when we face them together." The facility's core. The team finally reached the heart of the facility, a massive, circular chamber filled with rows of tanks, each one containing a different creature. The air was thick with the scent of chemicals, and the walls pulsed with a faint, red light. "This is it," Zanara said, her voice filled with dread. "The source of the energy signal." "We need to shut it down," Jackson said, his sharp green eyes scanning the room, "but we'll need to be careful. We don't know what kind of defenses this place has." A test of strength. As the team moved deeper into the chamber, the facility's defenses activated. Robotic drones emerged from the shadows, their weapons trained on the intruders. The Ravager let out a deafening roar, its massive frame charging at the drones. "Cover it," Jackson shouted, his plasma rifle firing at the drones. The team fought back to back, their weapons blazing as they defended the Ravager. The beast's strength and ferocity were unmatched, its claws tearing through the drones with ease. A new understanding. As the last drone fell, the team stood amidst the wreckage, their breaths heavy with exertion. The Ravager let out a triumphant roar, its glowing eyes filled with pride. "We make a good team," Jackson said, a faint smile playing on his lips. Zanara nodded, her crimson eyes filled with admiration. "You've shown me a side of humanity I never knew existed," she said. "And for that, I am grateful." The final challenge. The team approached the facility's core, a massive, glowing orb suspended in the center of the chamber. The air was thick with energy, and the walls pulsed with a faint, blue light. "This is it," Jackson said, his voice filled with determination. "The source of the energy signal." "How do we shut it down?" Vira asked, her silver hair glistening in the dim light. "We'll need to overload the system," Zanara replied, her slender fingers flying over a control panel. "But it won't be easy." As the team worked to disable the core, the Ravager stood guard, its massive frame tense and alert. For the first time, Jackson felt a sense of hope. Together, they could face anything. The core's activation. The team stood before the glowing orb at the heart of the facility, its pulsating energy casting eerie shadows across the chamber. The air was thick with tension as Zanara worked furiously at the control panel, her crimson eyes narrowed in concentration. The Ravager stood guard, its massive frame tense and alert, while Vyra kept a watchful eye on the perimeter. "This core is generating enough energy to power an entire fleet," Zanara said, her melodic voice tinged with urgency. "If we don't shut it down, it could destabilize the entire planet." "What's the plan?" Jackson asked, his sharp green eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. "We need to overload the system," Zanara replied, her slender fingers flying over the controls. "But it's going to take time." A race against time. As Zanara worked, the facility's defenses activated once again. Robotic drones emerged from hidden compartments, their weapons trained on the team. The Ravager let out a deafening roar, its massive frame charging at the drones with unmatched ferocity. "Cover her," Jackson shouted, his plasma rifle firing at the drones. Vyra joined the fray, her medical kit forgotten as she wielded a small energy pistol. The team fought back to back, their weapons blazing as they defended Zanara. The Ravager's strength and speed were a force to be reckoned with, its claws tearing through the drones with ease. The Ravager's sacrifice. As the battle raged on, one of the drones managed to land a direct hit on the Ravager, its energy blast searing through the beast's thick scales. The Ravager let out a pained roar, its massive frame collapsing to the ground. "No!" Jackson shouted, his voice filled with anguish. He rushed to the Ravager's side, his hand resting on its massive head. "Hang in there, buddy. We're not done yet." The Ravager let out a low growl, its glowing eyes filled with determination. With a final burst of strength, it lunged at the remaining drones, its claws slashing through their metallic frames. The core's overload. With the drones destroyed, Zanara finally managed to overload the core. The glowing orb began to pulse erratically, its energy levels skyrocketing. "We need to get out of here," Zanara shouted, her crimson eyes wide with panic. "Go," Jackson ordered, his voice filled with urgency. "I'll take care of the Ravager." Vyra and Zanara sprinted toward the exit, their breaths heavy with exertion. Jackson knelt beside the Ravager, his hand resting on its massive head. "You've done enough," he said softly. "It's time to go." The Ravager let out a low growl, its glowing eyes filled with gratitude. With a final burst of strength, it rose to its feet and followed Jackson out of the chamber. The facility's collapse. As the team reached the exit, the facility began to collapse around them. The walls crumbled, and the ground shook with the force of the core's overload. The team sprinted through the crumbling corridors, their breaths heavy with exertion. "We're not going to make it," Vyra shouted, her silver hair glistening with sweat. "Yes, we are," Jackson replied, his voice filled with determination. "Keep moving." The team finally emerged from the facility, the fresh air of Krylos 9 filling their lungs. Behind them, the facility collapsed in a massive explosion, its energy core erupting in a blinding flash of light. A new understanding. As the dust settled, the team stood amidst the wreckage, their breaths heavy with exertion. The Ravager let out a triumphant roar, its glowing eyes filled with pride. "We did it," Zanara said, her crimson eyes filled with relief. "The facility is destroyed." "Thanks to you," Jackson replied, his sharp green eyes filled with gratitude, and to the Ravager. The Ravager let out a low growl, its massive frame trembling with exhaustion. Jackson knelt beside the beast, his hand resting on its massive head. "You've shown us what it means to be brave," he said softly. "And for that, we're grateful." The journey ahead. As the team prepared to leave Krylos 9, the Ravager lingered behind, its glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. Jackson approached the beast, his sharp green eyes filled with understanding. "You're not coming with us, are you?" he asked, his voice filled with sadness. The Ravager let out a low growl, its massive frame trembling with emotion. Jackson nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. "I understand," he said. This is your home. But know that you'll always have a friend in me. As the team boarded their dropship, the Ravager let out a final roar, its glowing eyes filled with gratitude. Jackson watched as the beast disappeared into the horizon, his heart filled with a sense of hope. A new beginning. As the dropship ascended into the sky, Zanara approached Jackson, her crimson eyes filled with admiration. "You've shown me a side of humanity I never knew existed," she said. "And for that, I am grateful." Jackson nodded, his sharp green eyes filled with determination. "This is just the beginning," he said. "There's still so much we need to do." As the dropship disappeared into the stars, the team knew that their journey was far from over. But with the Ravager's courage and Jackson's leadership, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.